Good morning, Vietnam! And here I am back again. This video is a follow-up on my last video, but I don't know when I'll post this one, but very soon, the next few days. And the last one was about Korean dramas and movies and the reasons why they are so different, and I think much better than current Western dramas and movies. So the Korean movies I mentioned and dramas from 2009, and I list all the ones that I think are excellent to very, very good. And I was going to add at the end of that a comparison and talk about what I think are the good and not so good dramas and movies that have come out recently. And I mention only a handful of dramas and a few movies. I can't say I'm really positive about it and I'm critical of them, but I do talk about them and why I don't think they're as good as the Korean dramas and movies today. And then I get into, I talk about 10 dramas and about 10 current or recently released movies. And then I get into the actors, the current actors, Western actors, and male and female. And I make quite a long list of what I think, especially those that have been acting over the last 30 years, but I do mention quite a few that have been acting for the last 50 years. And I give my opinion on these actors. Probably in the end it's much more about the actors than about the dramas and the movies. So I will put my list up. In the middle of it, I also mention a couple of Japanese movies, actually 5 in total, actually 7 in total, because 5 of the movies are the one character, and that's a samurai period piece, and the other is a 2-part series on a character, again Japanese, but anyway, I will talk about them when I get to them. So now I will switch over to my list and talk through it and see if you think I am correct. I am sure I've missed some actors in this. I do list quite a few Western actors, mainly American, but I do go into English actors, Great Britain actors, and Australian actors. So here we go, I'll switch over to my notes. So you can see on your screen, as I said, it's a follow-up to the video I just released about why I think Korean dramas and movies are so much better today than the Western ones. Here I am. There's at least 100 other actors that I have missed, Western actors that are very good performers. But let's look at the shows that have been put out in the last few years. One of the current ones is called Blackbird, and it's a prison drama. But I think the reason why it is also so good is because they use an English actor as the lead role, Taron Egerton, who you probably know already from his work in some movies. And I can't think of the movie off my head, but I'll think of it. And he gets a lot of great support from the character actors around him, especially the really bad guy, the murderer. serial killer, and the story is quite good. Not a new story, but the reason why it was really enjoyable was because of the lead actor. I would rate that 7 out of 10. The Recruit, I really like this a lot. Mainly because of the lead male actor. He was very, very good. I didn't write down his name, but we're waiting for the sequel to come out because it didn't quite finish what happened to the lead actress, because something happens to her in the end and we want to know what happens. But the weakness in this is the female lead actress. She's not English speaking naturally, she's maybe Russian, but she's just too small and thin to be playing this character. The only Western actress that I really liked as a spy action star is Charlize Theron. She's fantastic in Atomic Blonde, in the Mad Max movie, and also in Old Guard. She is totally convincing as that type of character, whereas the other Western characters, female, just don't pull it off. She has the look, the body, and is trained as an action star, and it comes off. But as I write here, but they fail miserably. You must have the body first, then the look in the eyes, and then be able to actually fight, or be able to, when they do the choreography, make it look like you are really fighting. I mentioned this also, The Night Agent, which is actually a good story. It's fairly well acted. But what was not convincing was, again, the female lead actress. She just simply was not good enough. If you're going to spend all that money, there's plenty of American actresses that would be much more convincing than her. Why they picked her is beyond me. One of my favorite dramas. Now, I get almost all these on Netflix only. I don't want to pay too much money to watch the other online outlets like Apple Plus TV, Hulu. I'm only paying for Netflix at the moment. Anyway, I thought it was great because the dialogue is so fantastic, and the repartee between Kerry Russell and Rufus Sewell is really fantastic. Very, very well written. And this is what really makes this a great drama. I'm really surprised they picked both these actors. You know, Kerry Russell is more famous for her show on regular TV, Felicity, and Rufus Sewell generally plays a darker role, and maybe his darkest role was a movie called Dark City. But their dialogue between them is really, really good, and I'm really looking forward to the sequel to see how it plays out. One of the best received new dramas in the last few years is Queen's Gambit. As you know, excellent story. The lead actress, I mention her later, I think. And this drama made her a star, and now it got her the lead role in Road Warrior, the latest Road Warrior movie series. So I look forward to watching her in that, even though it doesn't seem to be that well received. But she is really, really good in Queen's Gambit. And what's interesting is I don't recall any other major actor or actress supporting in Queen's Gambit. They were all fairly low-key, not well known, but because of her star power and her acting and the great story, it is a really good drama. The Brother's Son, I was disappointed. It's quite good, mainly because of the two lead actors, Michelle Yeoh and Justin Chien. They carry this. The story is okay, but they carry it, and also there's many very good supporting actors and characters. But the weak link, and the story could have been a little bit more interesting, is the second son, who seems to keep making bad decisions, wrong decisions during the movie. And it is really disappointed, and because he makes these decisions, it puts the family at risk and his life at risk, and he keeps doing it. It's like, kill the character or stop making these stupid decisions, and that has destroyed the drama. And I write here, it's one of my pet peeves in modern cinema and dramas, and that is, there are many movies now and some dramas where the third or fourth character, or even children, teenagers, especially who do not follow simple orders from their parents or from someone higher up who tells them to do something, or especially don't go anywhere, stay where you are, and invariably they don't. I don't know why they do this in these dramas and movies, because I don't think it improves the quality of the drama at all. It just, in the end, pisses me off. It's because they put their lives in danger, and in some of the dramas, especially, I recall the two in France, the one that doesn't stay put gets killed, and she is like the daughter of the main character. It's like, he told you not to move. And another French movie where this exactly the same thing happened, except she got her boyfriend killed. And if this is supposed to add extra drama, it doesn't for me. Just write a better story, better script, and you won't have to do this sort of change of the script where one of the characters has to not follow advice. I get sick of it. Luckily in Korea, it rarely happens. Another drama which I really enjoyed was Happy. Christopher Maloney, which I've always thought was quite a good actor, but doesn't get really any very interesting roles. I have seen him in another movie where he was quite good, but of course he's well known for the Law and Order crime victim unit, whatever it was called, on TV for quite a few years. But he's really good in this and quite entertaining. I didn't think I'd like it, but I actually did like it very much. But I couldn't really watch the second one because I just couldn't watch a CGI parrot 2 times in a row. Movies, all of these are quite good. Dune, The Killer, Den of Thieves, and Cop Shop. But they're not great. They're just good. And they're good. They're very good. But there's nothing new or different in terms of Western cinema. They follow the same formula has happened for the most of modern Western cinema. So they're not original. Now, they're very well acted. The stories are very good. I really enjoyed The Killer, but there is nothing new in the movie. It's great because Fassbinder is such a great actor and can carry it. Den of Thieves, I really enjoyed it because the supporting cast, so many characters, are really good. And they make it work because it's totally believable. Cop Shop was fun. Dune, I found it really disappointed. 2 hours and 35 minutes. Much more great cinematography rather than anything really interesting happening in the movie. You know, I recall reading Dune, the first book, back in the early 70s, and still remember it quite vividly. So watching this remake is just so. I preferred the original back in I think the early 80s, directed by David Lynch. This new one is just about the cinematography. If you're going to make a movie like this, you need to watch Japanese samurai dramas, which I'll talk about in a minute. Or watch the original Blade Runner, or watch the original Aliens. I mean, this is boring. I'm sorry, but I thought it was boring, the story. 2 hours 35 of great desert scenes. I'm sorry, just doesn't cut it. As I've just mentioned, my feelings towards this, and they should watch these 8 movies, all from Japan, since I've done my Korean bit already. The first one is called Rurouni Kenshin. It is a 5-movie series, and they're all excellent. Occasionally, of course, it falters. Some of the dialogue is not as strong and could have been better, but you're talking about a 5-movie series, all 2 hours long, and they really carry it off. I really enjoyed it, and I've watched it all through twice already. Great action. I mean, the choreography is as good as it gets. And the other is this other Japanese actor who did 2 movies called The Fable, and there's quite a bit of comedy in it, and it's very watchable, very enjoyable. I could easily watch a third one if they made it. Plus he did another movie called Hell Dogs, where he became a member of the mafia. He was an ex-cop, but they asked him to go back and become a member of the mafia and to take him down. And really great control. His acting, as well as, of course, the scripts and the direction is excellent. As I write here, Western movies and dramas are great by Western standards and what Western audiences expect. Like the main character never dies, or there's some major twist in the middle of the movie. As I mentioned here in Awaken, the Korean drama, which is one of the great modern dramas, it turns out that 2 of the lead actors are actually twins. I mean, they throw in these wrenches all the time in many of the dramas. As I write, you know, movies like Red 2, Safe House, Grey Man and The Killer, they're so typical of Western. They're generic, they're very good acting, but the story and the emotion in these is just too limiting as compared to the Korean and some of the very few of the Japanese movies and dramas. So I go for a few pages on the great Western actors of the last 60 years, So here's a list of my American great Western actors. Robert Downey Jr., Ryan Gosling, John Travolta, Jeff Bridges, Samuel Jackson, George Clooney, Hugh Jackman, Denzel Washington, Harrison Ford, Michael Douglas, Johnny Depp, Benicio del Toro, Nicolas Cage. I do mention, I think, one or two below, but these ones I think need special mentioning because they are the creme de la creme of Western actors. Michael Keaton, still making great movies, as he did American Assassin just 2 years ago, 2-3 years ago. Really enjoyed the movie. Nothing new, but great performances all round. And he's like 70 years old, and he's still doing an action role. Most memorable, of course, in Beetlejuice, Batman, Birdman, and now to American Assassin. Interestingly, there were 3 main Australian actors in LA Confidential. Of course, Russell Crowe, who went on to become a great star, big star. Guy Pearce, who's done much smaller movies than Russell Crowe, but still a great actor. If you didn't know Guy Pearce, he was actually a bodybuilder, and someone discovered him, I believe, on the beach and asked him if he wanted to be in a movie, and he's been making movies ever since. The other actor in LA Confidential, which I didn't notice until I read about it recently, is Simon Baker, who is the star TV actor from The Mentalist. As well, he's done quite a few character supporting acting roles in many movies. And I write this, it's a pity Russell Crowe put on so much weight. It really restricted him into, I believe, in acting as well as people giving him better roles. And he could have become the new Robert De Niro, as he is a really, really good actor. Eric Bana, for his body of work. I really like him a lot every time I see him. And of course, no one can forget Mel Gibson. It's a pity about his outbursts in terms of race, being a bit of a racist. He could have been also a Robert De Niro. He has made many, many great movies. And of course the Hemsworth brothers are both really good actors. A special mention to Heath Ledger, who in Batman, even though he was more of a comedic actor before that, he rewrote the character the Joker after the great performance by Jack Nicholson in the first Batman movie. His total embodiment of the character is unequaled almost any movie anywhere that he became the Joker in that movie. And then of course Joaquin Phoenix just really copied him and he won an Academy Award for it. But Heath Ledger is the star, and he would have made, I think, so many more great movies, and it's such a pity, and what a proven waste it was when he passed away. Of course, Marlon Brando, number 2 in my book after Robert De Niro. He really started the whole method acting style, and especially his earlier performances, because later he put on so much weight and he was pretty hopeless. Luckily, by the time he did The Godfather, he'd only put on a little bit of weight. And so any of his early works are definitely worth seeing. Gene Hackman, many great roles. There's so many. One of my favourites, if you haven't heard of it or seen it, I highly recommend it. It's made in the 70s. I Never Sang for My Father. It's such a psychological movie about how parents try to control their kids even when they're 30, 40, 50 years old. And of course his two great action drug movies, Police, he was a detective in The French Connection 1 and 2. Movies like Mississippi Burning, The Unforgiven, The Conversation, just to name a few of his great body of work. And Gene Hackman, I think, is in the same league, absolutely, as Robert Downey Jr., Jeff Bridges, Samuel Jackson, Jack Nicholson, and Denzel Washington. To mention more of the older actors, Dustin Hoffman, his first 5, 6, 7 movies were really, really good. After that, they were very mediocre. And for him to win an Academy Award for his role as a woman is just stupidity. Robert De Niro, probably the greatest actor, but he chose too many movies that were not that good. The script was very, very so-so. He did it to make money. All his great work was really in the beginning of his career. Godfather, Deer Hunter, Raging Bull, Taxi Driver were outstanding, 4 of the greatest movies ever. But over his long acting career, I don't rank him as the greatest. Al Pacino, never been that big of a fan, even though he did The Godfather, Scarface, and Serpico. Great performances, but he overacts in his roles and becomes quite shrill, gets carried away, screams his head off, and it's just, for me, it's too much. Of course, the one and only Clint Eastwood for his spaghetti westerns. I remember especially in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which I have named a couple of my video series after that name of that Western movie. I remember so many scenes from that movie, especially the final scene in the cemetery is such a classic. I just love it. And of course his Dirty Harry series and 20 other movies that were really, really, really good. More of the older actors, Robert Duvall, well in his 80s now, still making movies. Again, his earlier work at the greatest, of course, To Kill a Mockingbird, the sci-fi THX 1138, of course, the Godfather series, and then even more recently in Jack Reacher. Paul Newman, Cool Hand Luke himself. Everything he did was very, very good, and I can't say that for Robert Redford or some of the other actors above, including Clint Eastwood. You got to watch his performance in a very old movie, a Western called Hombre, and of course the classic Western, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Robert Redford, not as good as I think as Paul Newman, but still made some fantastic movies. Again, early, really early in his career. Ordinary People, Barefoot in the Park, Jeremiah Johnson, another Western movie. 3 Days of the Condor, all fantastic. Steve McQueen, maybe the coolest actor of all. Bullet, Nevada Smith, The Thomas Crown Affair, The Sand Pebble, Papillon. He is, probably was, he's coolest actor. Charles Bronson, not what I call a star, but he did so many great performances. Special mention goes to, of the older actors, to Alan Arkin. He just did a series on TV with Michael Douglas called The Kominsky Method. They are both so fantastic in this. I was actually more surprised with Michael Douglas on his comedic performances. Their repartee is second to none. It was such a fantastic series. I really enjoyed it. But Alan Arkin, what a history of fantastic roles and acting. And of course, his greatest role was in Catch-22, which is so long ago. What a star. I mentioned Val Kilmer. He was fantastic in The Doors and Tombstone, and also alongside Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in that LA, I can't remember the name of it off my head again, that cop movie where they had the big shootout on the streets of LA. He was very good in that as well, but I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he had a mental breakdown, what it is for him, but what a wasted talent. And of course, maybe the greatest of all time as an overall body of work, Jack Nicholson. I remember his cameo in Easy Rider still today. Movies like Chinatown, The Departed, the great One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the great Five Easy Pieces, the great The Last Detail. Unequaled as an actor, in my opinion. Some of the younger stars have all done a lot of great work. Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, Leonardo DiCaprio, Billy Bob Thornton, Chris Evans, Christian Bale, and Bradley Cooper all have a great body of work, and they're all excellent actors. Keanu Reeves, I only mention him because he is a mega star because of his Matrix series and the John Wick series now suddenly. I really like him, but I wouldn't really call him a Hollywood actor that has crossed different genres of acting and characters. English actors, I will get into that in a second. Now, English actors and actresses, of course, this is getting longer than I want it to be, but what can I do? Anyway, English actors. Probably my most favourite movie of English origin is Lawrence of Arabia. Blade Runner is probably my favourite movie of all time. Anyway, what a movie, over 3 hours, and his supporting cast is fantastic. I just watched it, or actually only the first half recently. It is so long. I've seen it a couple of times, 2.5 times now. Another guy, Gary Oldman, could have been the contender, but he started off fantastic in the Sid Vicious biopic, Sid and Nancy. I remember it, at least 30 years ago. But then he started to overact and become quite shill in The Professional. If he had controlled his acting then, I think he would have got much better roles. But then, to my surprise and disbelief, he won an Oscar for Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. But in the end, in my opinion, I remember the TV series quite well, the original. It was like 6 episodes, if I recall correctly, and the lead actor was one of the great older English actors of all time, Alec Guinness, who made that character, and Oldman really just copied him. I don't know, the Academy, they're a bit stupid, what can you say, at times. And I mentioned the English actor Taron Egerton has done quite a few great roles, and he may be the English actor to move to become one of the greatest, to follow people like Alec Guinness and Peter O'Toole. And there's a couple here at the bottom of this list, or in the middle actually, people like Ben Kingsley, Malcolm McDowell, Peter Sellers, Michael Caine, Alan Bates, Oliver Reed, Sean Connery. Unbelievable actors. And I mentioned quite a few more of the younger actors. Liam Neeson has been around for a long, long time. I've never been really a big fan of his, but his acting career got resurrected accidentally by somebody casting him in the Taken series, and he became an action star. Otherwise, I've never really been impressed with him. Tom Hardy I can take to a certain degree. Cillian Murphy was fantastic in Peaky Blinders. Hugh Laurie has made some good movies, but of course he was the star of Dr. House. And of course we know Sean Connery from James Bond. Malcolm McDowell from one of the great movies in the 70s, A Clockwork Orange. Of course, Ben Kingsley from Gandhi. And if you didn't notice, Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List plays the classic German sadist commander. But I write here to be the real Hollywood man, or English movie man. You got to be compared to Cary Grant or Humphrey Bogart, because they were the real Hollywood stars. Ryan Gosling is the one that I think is the only one that's getting close to it. He might be, we'll see. Taron Egerton could be, if he crosses over more to the American side, which he already has in that drama, that prison drama. So we will see who becomes the Hollywood man in the next few years. Female actors. I do mention Michelle Yeoh first right away, even though she's not Western, but she has done many Western roles, English-speaking movies, and she's been in everything, pun intended, for her performance in Everything and Anything, whatever it was called. She won her Supporting Actress Academy for that. She was fantastic as the James Bond girl, and of course, everything she does is so good. She is on the money all the time, and just loved her in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragons. I mentioned her above in that The Brother's Son, and she helps carry that series, even though it wasn't that great. Memoirs of a Geisha, to Crazy Rich Aliens, and of course, I don't know if you saw it, Marco Polo, which really needed a third series, but I guess the audience didn't watch enough of the second series, but it could have been. I really was looking forward to a third series. She's the only action star that I think you can compare to Charlize Theron. Those two are at the top. Halle Berry does a very good job in the third John Wick movie as an action star, and she is, of course, was great in X-Men as a Bond girl in Die Another Day. She's in Kingsman as well, and Catwoman. The number 3 action star, as I write here. She is very, very good. Meryl Streep, I can't say I've ever been a fan of hers. Of course, great performances, but doing different accents and being in full emotional control, never losing it or making more of an emotional expression of her work like they do in the Korean dramas. Her face is flat. Same for Cate Blanchett. They get all these awards and accolades, but not from me. Nicole Kidman, probably the greatest Australian actress. So many great controlled performances. She uses her face probably as much or more than anyone else as Western actors. The old English male actors and some of the female, which I'll mention in a second, also use their face expressions and eyes to a great effect. Other Australian actresses, Radha Mitchell, Mia Wasikowska, Naomi Watts, and of course Rachel Griffiths for her main role in 6 Feet Under TV series. And of course, no one can forget the one and only Judy Davis, made so many movie appearances. Americans who I believe these 4 are outstanding actresses, but have only done 2 or 3 great movies, as they were never presented more great scripts and movies to work with. Madeline Stowe, Gina Davis, Joan Allen, Deborah Winger. All these ones below here, what have I got? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, are all excellent actresses and done a lot of work. But I mention the ones with the movies to the right of these actresses as being more exceptional than the rest of them, even though some of them have done some great work. Shirley MacLaine being there, and of course many other movies. Kathleen Turner in Body Heat was just as sexy as hell. Jessica Lange in 2 psychological dramas in childhood abuse in Frances and Sybil. Meg Ryan in the comedy When Harry Met Sally. Faye Dunaway, unforgettable in Chinatown, of course. And Sigourney Weaver, just in her Alien series, is an unbelievably great actress. The rest are really, really good. Elizabeth Shue in Leaving Las Vegas, I think she should have won the Academy Award for that role. Now, what I think of the 2 top female actresses, US, Diane Keaton, her early work, Godfather, Annie Hall, Mr. Goodbar, Manhattan, Reds, The Little Drummer Girl, which wasn't that well received, but what a great performance. And Mr. Goodbar, exceptional performances. She's a star. Jane Fonda. How can you forget her in Barbarella, and especially Clute? My gosh, she was outstanding, unforgettable. Also, she's so funny in Cat Ballou, so serious in Coming Home, Barefoot in the Park. What a love story. And the serious movie, They Shoot Horses, Don't They? And she did give a great performance in The Doll's House, but it was just not as good as the original by Claire Bloom in the English production in 1973. Still quite good. I don't know why I mentioned this again. Because Charlize Theron, I mentioned briefly earlier on. The real female action star, and Michelle Yeoh comes in very, very close as number 1, but I give it to Charlize Theron. English actresses who I think are outstanding, and I haven't mentioned really any young ones because there are some. I should have done more research and mentioned some of the younger ones in the last 10 years. But all these women have been working for between 20 and 50 years. Helen Bonham Carter, Kate Winslet in the Thomas Hardy movie that I can't think of the name of the book and the movie. She was so young when she did it. She was unbelievable. Emma Thompson, so many great roles. Julie Andrews, Helen Mirren, still working. Judi Dench, still working. Maggie Smith, I don't know if she's still working, but she's got to be well in her 80s. And maybe my favorite of all of them is Glenda Jackson, for the work she did in that silly me, I can't think of the movie, but look her up and you'll see it's from a very famous book. Anyway, since World War II only, and there's a few of the older, especially English male actors, and I did mention Cary Grant and Humphrey Bogart, but for me, it's Jane Fonda as the best female actress and Jack Nicholson. So many fantastic movies. Honourable mentions go to Steve McQueen and Paul Newman, especially Gene Hackman, Samuel Jackson and Denzel Washington for their long careers, and special mentions to Diane Keaton and Sigourney Weaver for their especially their early body of works. Anyway, that's it. I may do a series on American movies as well as directors. I will do a combination, I think, rather than separating them. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed it, and I'll finish it off with a prologue. Well, I hope you enjoyed that discussion in my list. You can refer to. Of course, I know I have missed some actors and actresses, of course, but as I noted in the end of my notes, I think that, again, Jane Fonda and Jack Nicholson are definitely the most memorable. I recall so many of them, of the movies that they made. And what's very different between the Korean and the Western movies and dramas is that people the viewers in Korea are mainly into the dramas, where in the West, even though we have quite a few dramas and they're becoming much more prolific, especially now that we have so many cable stations like Netflix, and so I'm sure we'll be more actors in the West will become more famous for their drama work. Anyway, thanks again. I hope you enjoy my list, and of course, if I missed anyone, you can put it down in the comments below. Thanks again. See you in the next one. Bye.